Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom, and today's special guest is Lena Welch. She is the founder and owner of Next Earth. So welcome to the show, Lena.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And, you know, I have to, guys, Lena's actually a personal friend. We've hung out quite a few times, so I'm really excited for today's discussion because Next Earth talks about movie production and the greening of movie productions. And your background is actually pretty darn cool. You started working on movies and TV shows and videos. Could you tell people how you got into that industry at the very beginning?
Yeah, I was convinced that I wanted to write television. I was not satisfied with the quality of programming that I was seeing, and thought I could move to LA and just very quickly to get discovered and, like, you know, be the next big deal. Easy, right? No, I actually went, got a PA job because everyone told me that was the first step to following that dream. That PA job extended to like 5 years of labor, very intense labor, long hours, very interesting culture, but very wasteful culture. And I found a lot of times, especially on commercials, everything's moving so quickly and there's so little planning that everything's going into like one trash bin at the end of the day. And love it or hate it, that's how it's going to happen, right? And so there was actually an instance where I was trying to collect cans separately for recycling, and someone actually stopped me and scolded me and said, "We don't have time for that. Like, drop what you're doing, help me with this pop-up tent," right? And so that kind of I was like, there's got to be a better way, right? And meanwhile, I'm, 5 years into this process of trying to become a writer and still not got anywhere on that. And then people keep telling me, "Oh, you have to join a union so you can start making money doing this. Like right now, you're kind of like the unpaid labor here, paid, but paid very little." And so I was like, I don't even, none of the unions are speaking to me. And finally, I saw a listing for a sustainability PA. And I just thought, oh my God, that's where I'm going to combine my interests. And so I went out for that job, was interviewed by someone who I now consider a close friend, did not get the job, but she recommended me to another woman who I now consider my best friend, who first became my employer, then my mentor, then my best friend, just kind of helping me through the learning curve of how to take something massive and fast and extravagant and luxurious and turn it into something that is ethical and considerate.
And that's a challenge.
It's so challenging. There's a lot going on in a film set. And, you have these departments of like anywhere from like 5 to 20 people in a department. And then you have this sustainability department of 1. And you're just going around, cleaning up after 300 people. Yeah. So it's a big job. It's an important job. It's a hard job. And I've come a long way since then. I don't want to go too far into my story too fast.
Oh no, but I think it's really important that people understand. One, most people have no idea what happens on a set. I've only gone onto like 2 sets in my life, and I hid in the background. I stayed out of the way, and there are people running. You've got the lighting guys, you've got the rigging guys, you've got people setting things up, taking things down. And yes, once something is done being used, it goes right into a bin. There's no separating. There's no trying to recycle or save. I would see fabric. And I'm like, that it's perfectly good fabric. Fold it up, use it on the next one. Like, nope, binned. And that's probably what you saw, and you're like, I can make this better.
Yes, exactly. A lot of effort, a lot of materials, a lot of money goes into making film, and then at the end, it all just kind of like gets forgotten. I don't forget. I'm like, all that stuff was worth money when you purchased it. It's worth money to get rid of it in a responsible way as well. So
and reuse it. I mean, especially when I would see people through fabrics or materials, and it's like, it's a perfectly good piece of wood. I'm sure you're going to need another 2x4 that's 6 feet long in the near future. Hold on to it. But now that you saw this and you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you say something like that and they're like, well, Eric's busy doing something else. Who's going to pull the nails out of it? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess Eric is busy doing something else. Who is going to pull the nails out of it? I don't know. It's like, we have to rethink every single thing we're doing. Like, we have all these doers. We don't have any of the undoers. Yes. So yeah, it gets complicated.
I love that. You have the people that are the undoers. They have to take it back to, to baseline. But that's why when you started Next Earth, you saw this, you worked in this, and then what triggered you to say, I'm gonna start my own consultancy?
Well, part of that was just like logistics of like trying to get the jobs that I wanted to do. I think the other part was being crew. Like, after 5 years of being a PA, I wanted to be crew, but there's no union for it, right? And so my only option was to go work at a studio in the corporate space, which just did not feel like it suit me in that way. I like to be with the circus freaks, I like to be out doing the things and see. Right, exactly.
Yeah, and that I'm the same way. I like to get my hands dirty. I'm a geologist. I went and got dirty and worked in dirt and rocks and rooted through old buildings looking for contamination. I get it. It's where the action is, and that's what's important. So in this industry, you started your own consultancy. You're doing the sustainability. You're trying to get people to think differently and rewire their brains. Any particular stories that pop out that you've seen, like massive wins and then massives, we could have done better?
Yeah, it's mostly we could have done better. But the small wins, even the big wins are big wins. Converting someone to a place where they're saying something is impossible to saying that doing that same thing was not only possible, but helped them in some kind of way do their jobs better, is such a huge win for me. We are so connected to sustainability, whether we like it or not, that it's not just about saving the trees, right? It's about saving our physical and mental health too. So when I go talk to the caterers, for example, they're used to hearing the buzz of a generator all day long, nonstop, smelling the fumes, all of that. And when you talk to them and you say, well, how, this battery replacement, how is that affecting you? And they say, oh, well, I don't take Tylenol every single day anymore to cure headaches because, I'm not having to get the headaches from breathing in the noxious gases. I'm not getting headaches from just that repetitive noise, that jittery noise. And that is oh my God, the person who has this really intense job that's really hard, very long hours, is finding that job to be more tolerable and better, for them and probably for their families and kids too. We all. What's that?
And also breathing that stuff in and day out. Not only people who are working on the set, but even the actors. If they're supposed to be projecting or talking, or even if you're a performer singing, it would affect your ability to breathe properly and actually do your job.
And don't forget the children.
I've talked to people that work in this industry and
sorry,
yeah,
the children
I forgot
actors,
about kids,
right? Come to set. There's rules that help them not be overworked. There's teachers there to make sure they don't miss out on their education. Nobody is looking after the air they're breathing, the air quality they're breathing at all.
That I didn't even think about it. See, I'm not on sets. I don't really think about everyone. My dog is having hiccups, believe it or not. My my dog just came over, just started having a round of hiccups right at my feet. And I'm like, don't barf on me. So, but no, I mean, kids on sets, I never thought about it. And I know, welcome to my world. But kids, they're developing, they're still growing, their lungs are growing, their brains are developing. That's, oh God, that's important.
Yeah.
That's important to know about.
Yep. And they walk right by the wardrobe trailer where you have a huge generator running. They go to makeup where you have a smaller generator running. Then they go to catering to have food. And then you have a medium-sized generator running. Everywhere you go, there's generators running. It's unavoidable.
Do you have like 3 or 4 constantly on the set? I'm sorry?
Yeah, depending. I said until now, we're eliminating generators slowly but surely. But yeah, typically a set will have a minimum of 2 generators. One will be powering the lighting and camera and action. The other will be powering the behind the scenes, the trailers, the catering operation, all the things, the village that we create for us workers to all live in. But there's becomes more needs all the time. You need air conditioning for the set, then you get another generator. You need overnight power, and so you get another generator for overnight power. You have to park the work trucks 3 blocks away. Now you have another generator. Sometimes I get to the point where I'm counting 6, 7 generators for one shoot day. And that's all, that's burning anywhere from like 5 to 60 gallons of fuel per generator per day, depending on the size.
Okay, so that's a lot of belching smoke. That's pretty gross. So not only do you do the energy side and the food waste side and materials and teaching people how to rethink their brains, what else are we missing that you can help people with?
I like to frame things where people are not giving up the things they like and they enjoy in order to be sustainable. I like to find ways where the sustainability actually adds value to their lives. So a good example I use of you can get this single-use plastic water bottle out of a cooler. It's like a wet bottle. The plastic thing or the paper thing is like peeling off. Like you'll lose it because it's whatever. You bring your own water bottle, and guess what you have at Crafty is spa water. You have water with the fresh orange and mint, and it's like it goes in your bottle that you brought from home, so it's the way you like it, and it's perfect. And it's got, maybe your stickers on it where you can like kind of represent like, oh yeah, I love skiing. That's why I have a skiing sticker, right? So I really don't think there's any world where someone should be giving up something that they like or want. It should be reframing, figuring out what they like about X, Y, and Z, and then delivering it to them better in a sustainable way.
And people will adapt to that. People are not going to adapt to being forced to doing something they don't want to do, but if you make it a positive reinforcement, they will adapt.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's always this general apathy or laziness that you're coming up against that does occur every once in a while. And those are kind of the cases where you have to be like, okay, well, we're not going to win them all. Right?
Yeah.
At least not yet.
And it's the baby steps. I mean, doing this show, I meet some really cool people such as yourself. And I've met people that understand you have to have compromise. You have to have an understanding, a halfway point. So, people have said to me, well, everyone should be vegan. You're not going to convince everybody to be vegan. So there are companies that cross over meats. They blend chicken with beef or pork, so it's not as heavy a carbon footprint. It still tastes like a burger, still tastes like a beef burger. It's awesome. Both burgers here in LA blends veggies with beef. So it's still cutting back on that carbon footprint. Battery technology. My sponsor, BioLargo, they started this salinity battery, which uses everything local. I mean, I don't know how they do it. I don't know the technology, but apparently it's a renewable energy storage battery. And you can get all of the materials from Home Depot. It is not lithium ion. It's a sodium sulfur battery. Don't know the magic behind it. And yes, I did study chemistry, but it's proprietary and they've had it tested and it works. So we are getting there. We are getting there. We're figuring it out. And it is those baby steps of slowly making our way to that change where we won't have generators belching 60 gallons of diesel a day. That's all.
Yeah, and your example is the perfect example. Like, we don't have to do this perfect. We just have to do it better each time we do it. So if there's still meat in this patty, but it's half the meat, it's half a win, right? And I look at the same thing all the time where, you know, these battery technologies, you have a finite amount of power to work with, whereas a diesel generator, you have what they consider infinite amount of power. So they always say, well, what happens when the battery runs out? And you say, well, turn on the generator. They go, well, doesn't that defeat the purpose? I'm like, well, the generator didn't run for the last 8 hours. Like,
we're good.
that 8 hours it didn't run just because we have 2 more hours left in the day that the generator has to be on. Like,
we're good. We're good.
Not perfect, sure, but like, we have them both here, and like,
use it. Use everything. Use everything at your disposal that you can. Make the change. I love it. And just the way you think is really refreshing because you are a problem solver on the run, which not a lot of people unfortunately aren't. They get stuck in their ways. And that's where you help them. So would you mind telling people, how do people hire you and find your company Next Earth to work on these productions?
Yeah, I mean, like anything in the film and TV industry, there's a lot of word of mouth. It's who you know, who you've worked with.
That's everyone.
I'm very proud of the fact that I get a lot of UPMs, unit production manager, that is, you know, asking for me because we've worked together on other projects. And so that's typically how I will get my business. But otherwise, you know, I do have an Instagram account, Next Earth Productions. I can be contacted there or just followed there to see what I'm up to. Also, you know, I can be emailed at nextearthproductions@gmail.com.
Crazy.
Very reachable. I have, you know, contract options that are for a production where I come in and I do everything you could wish, and I call that like a retainer. But also I have these a la carte options that could be any, you know, maybe they just say, I just want you to come in and talk to my team during prep, just like a few hours. I can do that, of course, instill in their mind that we're thinking about this, and then skedaddle. But also in the film and TV industry, there's a lot of stuff that translates too. So a restaurant, I think, you know, I'm working with caterers every day. So a restaurant could call me in for a la carte offerings as well and say, you know, we're looking for a way when we use these compostable to-go containers, the bottoms get really soggy and fall out. And you're like, well, compostable means that it's going to break down under heat and moisture. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. Maybe lay down a layer of tissue paper between the two, create a barrier, or lay down a bed of lettuce, you know, between the two. You know, like, right. You got to come up with these things that are, like, why didn't I think of that?
Because it's just not in your forefront. Since you do this day in and day out, for you, it's like, yeah, I got this. But one thing when you talk about restaurants, a lot of people aren't aware that there are these new laws coming through with proper food disposal and keeping it out of landfills.
Yes.
And they don't realize, you know, in restaurants, they may not understand what goes into which bin and what doesn't go into the bin, because it can get a little bit on the complicated side.
It definitely can. With these fake plastics, people are now throwing those in the recycling bin, thinking that they're recyclable, but they're actually, technically compostable.
It depends on where you are.
But we certainly don't want to use gas to haul them to the recycling center. Let's just say that. So yeah, it gets complicated and sometimes starts to feel like greenwashing in some cases if you're not doing it right. And I think that's why it's always important to have somebody on your side who's done the things before, right? And so they've already learned those lessons before you learn them, right? Save a lot of time and money and and sanity.
Don't reinvent the wheel if you already found somebody that knows all the tricks of the trade and how to do it correctly. And that's where you save money, because making mistakes over and over again costs money. Hiring you saves them because they're going to get it right. You're going to train them. You're going to get it done correctly. And you're going to avoid fines because, yes, those are coming. I hate to have people learn that, but the food waste industry is getting serious and they will be fining people. So
yeah,
that is that. I have friends in waste management and they're like, yep, it's coming. Sorry.
I mean, it's awesome. For me, it's awesome, right? Like, we're going to be requiring recycling. We're going to be requiring composting, but also hopefully they start enforcing the no single-use utensils unless by request, because that is another law that a lot of people are overlooking. I still go to restaurants all the time and get handed plastic silverware. And I say, like, you keep your trash. Like, I have
and LA County did pass an ordinance that you're not supposed to do that, but people don't know. And that's the thing. And those are fines as well. You only get a couple years to mess up, and then they start fining you. And all you need is someone to report you and say, oh, I got plastic utensils from this restaurant.
Yeah.
The county will send a fine.
And until then, we need vigilante citizens like me who is going to be calling that restaurant or writing a letter to that restaurant and saying, you know, like, I was going to bring my environmental group here to have dinner, but we have a policy where we don't go anywhere where there's disposable utensils, like that kind of thing. Like, maybe that's a stretch of the truth, right? Maybe I was just going to go by myself in my house.
But still.
Yeah,
it matters, and being on top of it matters. So, you know, I love what you do, and you know, I love hanging out with you. First of all, we have fun together, so we got to get together again soon. But I love what you do with Next Earth and teaching people and teaching them in a positive reinforcement way rather than blaming and shaming and giving people a hard time. That's really important. I think that's the most important thing to focus on, is keeping it positive.
Sure. Yeah, it's my job. It's not everybody's job. So when someone doesn't know something, you're not living my life. Of course you don't know it. Like, let me explain it to you, right? Like, that's it.
And keep it simple.
Yeah. Right?
So thank you so much for your time. And I know you're super busy. So yes, her phone has been dinging. That's been how many people are trying to get in touch with Lena right now, because she's a girl in demand, lady in demand. So Lena Welch, Next Earth, please look her up, find the Instagram, find her page. Just learn to do it right the first time. You're going to save yourself a lot of heartache and money in the end. So Lena, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate so much what you do. It's so refreshing, you know, and we'll be back at drag brunch soon, I'm sure, having our usual fun.
Well, I actually go quite frequently to the Abbey, so yeah, that's my home.
I want to make it my home.
Yeah, it is a fun place, I have to say. But thank you so much, guys. I'm Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice. Lena Welch, Next Earth. Please find her. Please hire her. She's doing very important work. And I thank you for your time, Lena. And guys, signing off. And again, we have a brand new sponsor, BioLargo. They just make life better. And as we just discussed, they also make batteries that are sulfur and salt batteries, which technology is amazing. I love what they do. Go check them out, and we will catch you guys next time. Take care.